Hello and welcome to the Irish Film London podcast. I'm Niamh Brannigan and I'm joined by Gerry Maguire. Happy New Year, listeners. This is our first episode of 2023. How was your festive break, Gerry?
It was nice and relaxing, Niamh. Happy New Year to you too. I spent my Christmas and New Year in Fermanagh, as I normally do. I spent about 10 years there, trying not to fall out with everyone, as you do. But yeah, it was good. It was nice and relaxing. Thankfully, we escaped the lurgy that everyone seemed to have.
You were so lucky because I did not.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And even though I was really sick, I still didn't get to watch half as much Christmas films as I would have liked. I still ended up being really busy and still doing loads of family things. And I think just ignoring the fact I was sick. I feel like a lot of people did that. It's like, I'm not sick, while they're coughing up their lungs.
Yeah. Because
everyone's just so afraid of, kind of retreating back. But yeah, unfortunately I was quite sick. But in saying that, the stuff that I did get to watch over the break was all very satisfying. I got to watch King Richard, which is such a great movie, but I mean, ruined with Will Smith. Every time I look at him now, I'm just like, oh God, you're such a dick. And yeah, he's that guy. I watched Three Billboards again because I just think it's just
great
so
film.
Good. So good. I got to watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was beautiful. And then also another beautiful one was The Wonder as well, which
wow.
Yeah, we were saying earlier, the soundtrack in that was just fab.
Two contemporary American stories and two European costume dramas, I think.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Look at me.
Look
at me. And what about you? What did you get to watch over the break?
The main thing that I watched, so my sister was over and she logged us into her Disney Plus account, which was great. So I rinsed through Andor, the Star Wars story on Disney Plus, which I really enjoyed. I think Andor is one of those Star Wars stories that doesn't have to be a Star Wars thing. It's just set in that universe, you know. But really great performances from Fiona Shaw, who pops up really early on in it. She's like this rebel matriarch character who disappears for a while and comes back at the end of the series. Gives a real rousing speech, which sort of sets a load of stuff up for season 2. And I was watching it, and this kind of baddie character appeared for a while, and I couldn't figure out who it was, and then realised it's Denise Gough, who is a brilliant actress. She's been in loads of great stuff. She was in a really exciting horror film last year or the year before called Martyr's Lane, which I worked with her on, and she feels like she's going to be a super important character in season 2. There's like a lot more going on under the surface of that character than they've explored so far.
I'm always so excited to see Denise Gough work. I just think she's such an exciting actor to watch.
Totally.
She's just class. So good. And yeah, one thing that we both need to catch up on, I don't know if any of our listeners have watched it, is the Vardy versus Rooney.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I didn't get to see that. I think it came out just before Christmas, actually, or maybe sometime in December. But yeah, I think that was Julie Ryan of MK1 produced that, and Una Kearney directed. But yeah, I really want to see that. It's really fun to see those girls working on like a big Channel 4 kind of thing about a case that everyone knows, and Wagatha Christmas.
Very iconic. Yeah. But we were saying it's just been a bit gross, just kind of getting back into the swing of things and routine and work and everything. So I think it is always nice to maybe try and build up a list of TV shows and films to kind of have your evenings and ease yourself back into everything.
Yeah, give yourself a reward. I mean, like, full respect to everyone who's gone back to work this week and all your efforts as you settle back into things. We see you. We feel your pain.
Exactly. We feel your pain. Well, one thing, you are definitely not making it easy on yourself because you're doing dry January. I don't know why you're doing it to yourself, Gerry.
We have to talk about this every time I remember about it.
Welcome to AA.
I know, right? Yeah. Hello, my name is Gerry, and I've been sober for 11 days now. But in all seriousness, I was either going to do dry January or what's it called, Veganuary. And
okay.
yeah, so I'm not self-flagellating necessarily. I just like I
feel like one will save you money and the other it will be more expensive. So
yeah, possibly, but I'm not sure which, because actually I chose the dry January option, and actually what I've found is that I'm just eating a lot more to compensate for the boredom of not having a drink. But no, the first weekend was dire, especially because it was my first weekend after coming back from Ireland and just hoofing port and mulled wine and stuff into me every evening. But no, I'm not too bad now.
Well, if any of our listeners are also doing dry January, you're not alone. Jerry's with you. I'm absolutely not, but I support you guys from the sideline.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't support anyone to do dry January. I think it's too much pain. But fair play to us all for trying. Do you do any New Year's resolutions, Niamh?
I always struggle with New Year's resolutions. I just think there's just so much pressure. You put so much pressure on yourself. So I kind of weirdly find that I kind of do my reset in September time. Maybe that's because I'm still a child and I'm still in the school term in my head. But I think kind of the change in seasons kind of, I'm like, okay, right, we're going into winter now, what are we doing? And January, as we said, like January's hard enough, give yourself a break, ease back into it. If you're not in the gym as much as you want to, you got the whole year ahead of you. It's all okay. What about you? Do you have any resolutions?
I think that's really, really good advice. I don't normally do New Year's resolutions, because I do recognise that I can be very hard on myself if I do them. And I think that New Year's resolutions are kind of destined to fail for the most part. Like I've never been someone who went to the gym, so that's not a thing for me. I've never been somebody who's like, this year I'm going to read 100 books or something like that. For me, a New Year's resolution is normally, it's more like a reflection point. It's like, look at let's be thankful for the things that I have done this last year and the things that I have to look forward to, and try to be less shitty to people in my life in general. And
that's a good one. I think and everyone's different. If it definitely helps you to set goals and all of that kind of stuff, for sure it can be a really nice way to give yourself structure or routine. But I think it's just we just put so much pressure on ourselves anyway.
We do.
Try not to add to that. But so into Irish film. We should turn this just into a therapy podcast. Who needs to learn about new Irish films, huh?
I know. So we do like a spin-off podcast. It's just like Irish therapy with Niamh and Gerry.
But speaking about Irish films, a fabulous night for the Banshees of Inisherin at the Golden Globes, winning 3 awards for Best Picture, Best Actor, who was Colin Farrell, and Best Screenplay. So I mean, cleaned up there.
Did you see Colin's acceptance speech?
I did. I just adore him. I mean, he also is from up the road from me, so like we're basically neighbours.
I see.
I've always adored him, but he's just so lovely and articulate, and he's.
No, it was lovely. There was a lot of real emotion in what he said, both to his cast that were there, and as well, he said something which felt really heartfelt to Ana de Armas, who was presenting the award, and. I think there's a few giggles from the audience, and he said something which was really interesting. He said, you don't have to laugh at that comment. I was being serious, but who am I to? He said something along the lines of, "Who am I to police your
judge
laughter?
What's funny?" Judge what's funny or not, which is interesting because we're only talking about how the fact that Banshees of Inisherin is in the comedy or musical category, and then like Elvis is in the drama category. So
that's super interesting, isn't it? Like I can kind of see how Banshees can be seen as a comedy and not a drama, because it does have those really dark comedy elements. But how can you say that Elvis is anything other than a music film, like a musical film? So it should be in a comedy and musical one, right? But
it's very strange.
These
awards.
I guess they thought that they would get a better chance of winning an award in drama.
Very true. But I mean, look, we'll take it.
Yeah.
So Golden Globes is done.
Yeah.
And then next out will be the Oscar nominations will be out on the 24th of January, but we do have a short list, which is looking really nice for Irish films as well.
Yeah, so we've got The Quiet Girl, obviously, and Colin Kuhn is, if you don't know about that already, then where have you been? It's up for the international feature category. And when we say it's up for it, it's shortlisted for that category. The final nominations list is coming out later in January, as you say. Banshees is up for original score, and a really lovely thing to see, An Irish Goodbye, which is a short film we had at the festival in November and which has been all over the place, is shortlisted in the international short film category as well. So, you know, congratulations to all of them already, and especially the folks at An Irish Goodbye. That's the kind of thing that, you know, being in that short film shortlist, and if you do get a nomination for it, that's the kind of thing that really makes careers. You know, we've seen that before.
Absolutely,
with Irish
it's the most beautiful short, I have to say. I think genuinely as well that the episode that we did during the summer, when I was chatting about stuff that we saw in Galway, I think I said that An Irish Goodbye was just one of my favourites. It's just so gorgeous. It's
really good.
And then also the BAFTA long list is also out.
So 3 more nominations there for The Quiet Girl, which I think are foreign language film, director for Colm, and adapted screenplay for Colm as well, I suppose. So yeah, we'll find out what happens with them in terms of nominations. I think back end of January as well. So
it's always a very exciting time. But tough on the wallet, because I just want to go and see everything.
I mean, there's actually good representation across the BAFTAs, like, long list altogether, and we tweeted about this a few days ago, so I'll kind of refer back to my tweet. But if you're looking for overall Irish representation in the BAFTAs long list, right, you've got Paul Mescal for After Sun, you've got the whole team of Banshees of Inisherin, you've got Daryl McCormick for Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. Daryl was the recipient of Ros Hubbard Award in November, so we're really happy to see that. You've got young Alicia Weir in Matilda the Musical. You've got Saoirse Ronan in See How They Run. You've got everyone from The Wonder. You've got obviously The Quiet Girl. You've got Jessie Buckley in Women Talking. And there's 2 documentaries there as well. There's Nothing Compares by Catherine Ferguson and The Ghost of Richard Harris. So, you know, alongside The Quiet Girl and An Irish Goodbye, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's like 10 or more Irish films or Irish, you know, talent represented.
Taken over.
Yeah.
This is it. And John Carney, a lovely, nice bit of news. Always nice to hear from John Carney.
Course. Yeah.
Director of Once and Sing Street is on his way to Sundance this month, as his new film Flora and Son has been selected to have its world premiere in the Utah Festival. With Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jack Rayner's in that as well. Always nice to hear from John Carney. I think he just makes such gorgeous stuff. So really nice. Really nice that he's coming out with a new film. Yeah.
Also at Sundance, I believe, is Laura McGann's Irish feature documentary, The Deepest Breath. So that's going to have its premiere at Sundance. That's a Netflix and A24 documentary about a world record freediving attempt. So congratulations to Laura.
Very, very cool. And Tara O'Callaghan's short film Call Me Mommy, which is produced by our friends at Motherland too.
Yes, that's also
it's a busy time. It definitely kind of I remember for a little bit we were like, oh, there's kind of nothing going on, and then all of a sudden it's like okay, no, we're back. You thought we were asleep, but don't worry.
Peaks and troughs, but mostly peaks this last while.
And before we kind of touch onto our horror theme, tell us about the St. Bridget's Day Festival.
Right, so that's the next things that we've got coming up at Irish Film London. So our Bridget's Day programme is on sale everywhere now. We've got 3 days worth of films happening at Riverside Studios in Hammersmith and the Rio in Dalston, all focused on female film from Ireland and Irish filmmakers. So we're starting off at Riverside on Friday the 3rd of February, and we are screening The Future Tense by Desperate Optimists. That's Christine Malloy and Joe Lawler. If you think that sounds familiar, The Future Tense played at the BFI London Film Festival in October. We don't think it's been seen in the UK since then, so it's another chance to see it before its big release, which is coming out. Movie has picked that up, and Visit Films are handling sales for that. So come and watch it with us in Riverside on the 3rd, and I can let you know now that Christine and Joe are going to come down and do a Q&A for that. That's a brilliant little film, in their sort of standard style of like their acerbic wit, for lack of a better phrase, because they're quite unique in their delivery. They're talking about their experiences as Irish immigrants, and they're thinking about it from the perspective of their daughter Molly, who's now as old as they were when they first moved over. So really interesting one. Saturday at Riverside, Saturday the 4th of February, is a Canadian-Irish documentary called Only Child. Now that's super interesting film that we saw in, I think, Galway last year. And the director, Andy Amos, is going to join us for that screening. So he's coming over from Toronto to join us for the screening. Only Child is about a lady called Maurice. She is a Canadian-Irish woman. So she was an adoptee who grew up in Canada. And Maurice went on a journey to try and figure out who her Irish birth family was. And Andy followed her and recorded the whole thing. So look, this is basically a documentary about the mother and baby homes, but from the perspective of an adoptee who's had a full life. And dare I say it, it's actually a documentary about that subject matter that has a happy ending. You know, so it's quite a special thing. You know, it's about a lot of difficult subject matter, but it's a really interesting film to watch. So that's Saturday, the 4th of February at Riverside. Do come and join us for that as well. Then we move over to the Rio on Sunday the 5th for a double bill. We're starting off with a selection of 6 short films, which are playing at 1:30 p.m, which I will tell you a little bit more about in a second. But then at 3:30 p.m, we are partnering with Bird's Eye View again this year to present a screening of a really special film from this sort of Irish feminist canon, if you like. It's called Hushabye Baby. It's by Margot Harkin, who's also joining us for a director Q&A. And Hushabye Baby is a film that's set during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. It features a young Sinead O'Connor in an acting role, but it's a film that's really, you know, it's rare because it's set in 1983. It's not about the Troubles. You know, they're a part of the fabric of the film, but really it's about the 1983 abortion referendum, and the reason it exists is to try and humanize a story about women's reproductive rights during that period. So Margot's going to be there for that. If you want to come down to the Rio, I'd encourage you to come down at 1:30 p.m. and join us for the short films, which are screening at the same time. There are 6 of them, and they are Above the Law by Brian E. Dunn, which we screened in November as well at the festival. There's the winner of our short film award at the festival, An Encounter by director Kelly Campbell. There's a beautiful film called Baths by director Neil Hensey. There is a little film called Ready by the director Emma Wall, which features, I don't know, some girl called Niamh is in it, I think.
Oh yeah, I think that's supposed to be really, really good.
Right, okay, cool. Then there's Wednesday's Child by Laura O'Sullivan, and a lovely film that we screened online last year, which we're really happy to bring back to the cinema for an in-person screening, called Someday Sadie, and that's by Kate Gilmore. So that's your 6 films. Hopefully we can do something of a live intro or some sort of like talk or something like that about all those short films as well, because I know that some people are going to be in London during those screenings, and that means that basically every event that we're doing for Bridget's Day has a live element to it. There's a Q&A or a talk or something that's going to happen. They are once again 3rd and 4th of February at Riverside Studios, on sale now by the Riverside website, and Sunday the 5th of February at the Rio in Dalston, on sale via the Rio's website now. There's actually a link on the front page of both sites for Irish Film London events, and you can click in and buy your tickets right now.
Well done.
Thank you.
Very impressive. That just sounds like such a great program. I'm very excited. And there'll be a lot of kind of online content as well, won't there?
Oh yeah, that's true. I should talk about that as well, because the shorts are going to be online. And you know what we did last year when we were kind of coming back into in-person screenings, but kind of not. We did an interview which we stuck up on the shorts program online. So if you buy a ticket for the program online, you get access to this sort of extended Q&A, which we did with all the short filmmakers, and we're going to try and do that again this year. There's a lot of value in that because you get like, you know, a full kind of interview session with all these filmmakers, and that proved to be really, really popular last year. We got a lot of watches on that. We're looking forward to doing that again this year as well. So yeah, amazing. Online and in person.
Brilliant. It's so exciting. So before we move on to our interview, we had a lot to get through today. Well, I mean, it's the first one back, 2023. The trailer for Evil Dead Rise
my God
came out, which is right up my street. Oh my God, it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah. So yes, Evil Dead Rise is of course by an Irish director, Lee Cronin, which makes us very excited about it, naturally. But, you know, there's a few things that are very different about it. In the first instance, it's the first Evil Dead film or TV or anything that doesn't seem to feature Bruce Campbell at all. A brand new cast, brand new sort of start to the franchise, if you like. Sam Raimi's exit from it and Lee's taking up the helm. So that's really exciting for Lee. But at the same time, you've got to make a splash with an Evil Dead trailer, I think, or with an Evil Dead film, and straight away this trailer introduces us to some brand new kitchen-based horror concepts, including the creative use of certain utensils, which I don't know, like, I don't want this to be like red banded too much or anything, but if you want to go and watch the red band trailer, and you can find out just exactly which utensils you have to look at.
So it's so cool taking on kind of such a big franchise like that. Hopefully we can get Lee on to talk about it, because I just think that would be so interesting.
I'd love to speak to Lee here about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, this week I caught up with the team from Let the Wrong One In, which is a new comedy horror from director and writer Conor McMahon, whose background is in indie horror shorts and comedy horrors and micro budget features. So the film is about a young supermarket worker who discovers that his older brother is a vampire, casually enough, as you do, and he has to choose whether to help him or slay him, and not in the kind of work slay, like actually so I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will chat to you on the next episode, Gerry.
Nice one, Niamh. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye. If you're part of the regular Irish Film London audience or want to get more from your experience, consider joining our growing family of members for a range of exciting benefits. Irish Film London is a non-for-profit organisation. Our mission is to promote the best new Irish film to audiences all over the UK, and with the help of this podcast, the world. If you become a festival friend or a festival champion, you get perks like discounted tickets for films and events, free access to Irish Film from Home films, and invites to networking events, and so much more. So check it out now. Hello and welcome to the Irish Film London podcast. For our Friday the 13th episode, I am welcoming writer and director of Let the Wrong One In, Conor McMahon, and his lead vamp, Deco, played by Eoin Duffy. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So yeah, I guess I'd love to start with you, Conor, and where Let the Wrong One In was born. I know your background is mainly in horror and horror comedies like Stitches and Dead Meat and From the Dark, starring Niamh Algar, who we've also had on here as well. Sure. So when was Let the Wrong One In born, and where did kind of the inspiration come from?
It was two things. Like I always thought it would be funny to have a Dublin vampire, with a Dublin accent. That character was in my head for a while, and I guess the idea that Bram Stoker was from Dublin, and it kind of felt that there should be an Irish vampire film, so I didn't really have an idea of what the storyline would be, and then one day I was like, I always get my best ideas when I'm going on a plane, like a plane journey. So I was like on a flight to New York, and I suddenly got the idea. And so it was basically the idea that it was set over a day, and it would be a vampire film where the vampire can't leave the house because it's daytime, So instead of it being a vampire where he's outside at nighttime, it was like, oh, what if it's set over a day and he's stuck in a house? And I think that like it was, so from that just concept, it was I wrote the first draft in about a week or two, you know. So yeah, that's how it started.
It does. It feels very, I was gonna say wrong, which is, yeah, I guess is the word I'm looking for, to watch a vampire to watch a vampire film during the day. It's so bright and it feels so disorientating. You're like, oh God, this feels so strange. But that's what's so great about it. That it feels very like wrongly placed, and then that's what just makes it so funny. And then, Owen, I guess, what was your kind of introduction to Let the Wrong One In? How did that kind of casting come about?
Well, I mean, I don't know, like you probably know already, but this was going on years. So our first audition was actually just for a proof of concept that Conor was doing. So back then I just started acting, so I didn't even know what a proof of concept was. So I remember I saw the ad go up, and I mean this with respect to everyone, but comedy at that level, when you're just starting out, you never, back then when I was reading scripts that were comedy, I wasn't bursting out laughing at them. Like, it was a very particular comedy. It wasn't at a level that maybe you'd see on TV and be like cracking up. But I remember reading that script and I was like, this is hilarious. And even the concept of it, I just thought it was gas, because I love that kind of contradiction as well of the kind of a Dublin vampire, and anything that kind of is very authentically Dublin. It just obviously speaks to me because I'm from Dublin, but I think as Irish people, anything that's authentically Irish does make you go, authentically, am I saying it right? Authentically?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds wrong. But yeah, it's like a thing where I just felt that Dublin and Irish come from it. And then I was like, oh, I hope this is good. And then when I read the script, I was like, oh God, this is great. And again, I was starting off, so I wasn't like, oh, I know a good script when I see one. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. But I just was like,
I'll take what I can get. I'll take whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's on a napkin, I'll do it, right? But I was like, okay, I'll just go in. I've a family who kind of are ADs and stuff. So I was like, what's a proof of concept? And they were telling me, and I was like, all right, I'll go in anyway. So I went in, and yeah, like, I'm going to say this so it doesn't sound like I'm blowing smoke up my arse here. I honestly didn't do much for it. I was like, and this is probably compliment to Conor's writing as well. I kind of just knew who Deco was in a way. It was weird. Like, it was just kind of going, this guy is just stupid. He doesn't know where he's after getting himself into. And at the time, and Conor will probably tell you, it was two best friends. It wasn't brothers.
Right.
So I went into that audition not doing loads of work on it, just kind of going, oh, I'll go in, like, it's a proof of concept, it'll give me practice, it will do good just to get in a room, and an audition room, and a lot of it was improv. And so I just went in with that, and so I just stopped, keep going, but that was the intro at least. Yeah, just a proof of concept, like, yeah.
That's so interesting. So, Conor, was the proof of concept, was it just going to be a short then, and then just over time it kind of grew into a feature?
So yeah, I mean, I kind of decided that I wanted to show people the kind of film it was going to be. Like, so if they read the script, they'd understand, I guess, the humor of it, and even probably for myself, like, you know, just to get a sense of the tone of it. And I mean, it ended up being great, because when you do proof of concept, you don't necessarily intend to find the actors that you're going to use. But I suppose for comedy, I thought it was important, because you want to show the comedy. Like, you know, if a proof of concept is for a comedy and it's not funny, it's not very useful to you, you know. So we spent a lot of time trying to get the other actor. And actually, like Owen said, it was originally two best friends, and we were like looking at loads of people. Owen was reading off like loads of people, and we couldn't find that dynamic. And then Michael Lavelle, our DOP, he suggested Carl came along, and I saw him, and he was like, he's like, this guy is like, he was 15 at the time, I think, or 14.
16 he was, yeah.
Oh my God.
But he looked about 12.
Really young, and I was like, oh man, he's totally wrong. But it's like, I'm not going to send him home. He came all the way in, so let's just let him read. And then the minute the two guys read together, I was just like, oh my God, like, it's so good. There was something about having someone younger and more innocent that wasn't present in the other thing. And also the fact that it was family, it made it, it's like that thing with family, you can have harder arguments, but you're still connected. It's much harder to get rid of someone. if they're in your family. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's so much easier to walk away from a friend, you know what I mean? Definitely. And I really love that he's that little bit younger as well, because it really kind of gives him somewhere to grow to for the
Yeah.
for the end of the film, which is really, really cool. You got the Anthony Head, who is just top class, along with some amazing other performances in it with Hilda Fane, David Pearce, Mary Murray. But how did Anthony come on board? And then how did the rest of the cast kind of fall into place?
Well, I think it was that thing where, I mean, once somebody mentioned his name as a, possibility, it's like, well, it has to be him, It's like, oh my God, yeah, like let's try and get him. And
Brad Pitt was busy at the time, so
yeah, it's like, yeah. Anthony's got he's got the history. I mean, I thought he wouldn't be into it. You know, the way when someone's known for, and he hadn't done any other vampire stuff really since Buffy. But I like that, like, he's very proud of Buffy, and he's like, he really like will. He'll talk about it. You know what I mean? He's happy to chat about it. But there is that thing where it's like, you have to do the phone call with Anthony. It's like, come into the office tomorrow at 2:00. And it's almost like you feel under this pressure. It's like, he's going to say yes or no based on this phone call. And it's like, don't mention Buffy. What I'm going to say, but like, we ended up having a good chat. And then afterwards he said yes. So, but yeah, so that was the process. And I mean, he really liked the script, as well. So that was nice.
No, he was perfectly placed. Very iconic as well with the history of his vampire world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's perfect. Because originally it was written that when the doctor arrives, you aren't supposed to know in the original script that he's a vampire killer. But once it was Anthony Ted, it's like, well, there goes that.
Yeah. And just between that then and Carl's character originally being a friend, how long I just think it's always really interesting to ask people that like their different processes of working. How many drafts do you think that you went through until you like were ready with your shoot and draft, or did it even change throughout the shoot?
Oh yeah, like it changed a lot, and but not like not majorly. Like the core of it was always the same. I think like we had a lot of time, like Eoin and Carl, like rehearsing and sort of doing some improv and like, so it was more kind of me absorbing sort of my environment. Like I might be on the bus or something and I'd hear a line of dialogue or I'd hear people talking and that'd be a perfect line to put in the script. So it was more like that, like tweaking little lines. And I think then one of the big changes was because we were shut down like a day before we were about to start filming. So we got this extra 6 months before we were going to shoot. So I had this time to kind of as well just rewrite the script. And because we had all the locations, I was like, so the biggest change I would say is Anthony's character, they bopped him on the head and kind of stuck him out in the shed. And I was thinking, I can't remember how it came about, but it would be better to put him in with the two guys rather than put him out on his own in the shed. And I think some of the fun stuff was the three of them all stuck in the front room.
People have asked me like, oh, what was your favorite day? And that day where it was the three of us in that living room and we were just bouncing off each other. It was the funnest day ever. And it actually is one of my favorite little sections of the film is just, I don't know what it was. It was such a difference, Conor, wasn't it? When he was just sitting in between us and he was so open to having the crack that like, we were improv lines and like, we were saying mad things to him and he just take it in and come back with something. And obviously you can only use some of it for the film, but that day there was just so much crack in that room and he was just well up for it. And definitely one of my,
because it really made like the idea that he wasn't there originally is kind of like, God, I'm glad we were postponed,
Yeah. Well, the postponed thing, like, and yeah, for those that don't know, it was COVID, obviously, but like, I don't know if it was maybe it was a day before you went in for prep, but I remember for me, it feels like it was like 5-6 days or something. And I remember I was like, okay, we're shooting in 6 days. And then what was it? Leo came on saying, okay, we're going into, and I was just like, oh my God. And I thought that could have been gone. Again, I was very naive originally. of how much and work and how many factors it takes to actually get a film made and to get it over the line, or even to get onto a set. And after that, when you shoot, it still might not make it, And I think I was definitely naive to that. And I remember when Leo came on and said, "Look, we're closing down," and Conor messaged us going, "Look, that's us. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not happening in a week." And I remember hearing all those podcasts or interviews I'd heard of people going, "Yeah, it never made it over the line." And I was like, "Oh, this is one of them." And I was like, "No," I was like, "This is how it happens." So the fact we actually got to do it, that 6 months.
It is very impressive because it can be, I can only imagine, and I'm sure it happened with, as you said, on loads of projects of, keeping up the drive for it, or other things falling away throughout while it was on hold. And then, was there anything that was compensated, Conor? It seemed like you were able to keep everything.
Carl just turned into a man.
That was like the biggest worry. That was the biggest worry through the whole process was over the years, because
down to puberty.
Carl was so young, but then he started like doing weights and puffing up, and I was like,
he was a fridge when he came in.
Yeah. Here we go,
Yeah.
And then he was getting braces on his own and stuff, and it was like, come on, so it was like Carl was my big concern,
I mean, what was the carnage that unfolds in the house is just off the charts. So talk to me about the location, because where is this house that just kind of got absolutely ruined with blood and doors smashed and windows, people being thrown out the windows? And
Conor's the most laid back man on the planet. Okay, so a week before we start shooting, we lose the location. So we don't have a house, and Conor's like, "Oh yeah, we don't have that now." Yeah, or was that? Sorry, am I mixing that up? Was that the warehouse we didn't have? But you lost the location, and he was just so calm about it. It was hilarious. I was panicking myself.
Yeah, you see, experience has taught me. What's my phrase I tell myself? Accept everything as if you had chosen it. I say to myself. But
look at
that. But it's like. Okay, I'll tell you, because this is how the house came about, which is interesting. Like, I knew from previous film that I'd done, is like, if you get a house and we rented a house once for another film, and we were trying to throw blood everywhere, but everyone was like, "No, you can't. Oh, you can't mess this up." And we had to shoot around it, and I was compromising the blood splatter for the sake of the house owners, or we had, or it was like, there was in that film, like, someone had to get vomit in the sink, and then for continuity we had to leave it there, but the people who owned the house would come back in the evening and they just see a load of fake vomit in their sink and they think we were animals, and I was like, I'm not going through that process again. So whatever house we use has to be a house that it's just free for all. I want to be able to throw blood wherever I want it or whatever. So weirdly, like, me and Michael, the DOP, we just decided to drive around Dublin one day, and it seems like madness. It's like, we just said, let's go out and try and find the house, and so we just driving around, and there was a row of houses, and we were like, oh, that looks like a nice bunch of houses there, and we got out of the car, and then literally a guy I had met at a party 2 days later was walking past at the exact same time and walked up into one of the houses, the next door of this house. And we were like, oh, who owns this house? Like, and he was like, oh, my, I think it was his uncle or something lived in there or whatever. And so it just got us talking with the neighbors, and we were looking through Letterboxd, and this house, the one we used, looked like it was completely abandoned. And there was no one in it. So we were like, that is perfect. So we did a lot of, we had to tile the kitchen and paint it up and fix a couple of things, but it was a house that was going to be sold, so there's no one living in it. So it was just like,
perfect.
Okay, yeah, it was like perfect. We could trash it. Except the one part was when David Pearce comes in looking for his rabbit, and he's a baseball bat, and he just starts smashing the door, and I was like, he kind of
improv this bit, and he just starts smashing the door with a baseball bat, and Conor's like, cut.
Got a little bit too in character there.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
I mean, it goes without saying that there's just so many hilarious moments in it. And one thing for me, it's a really small moment, but Owen, it's where you go to open the blind to show Carl that it hurts you. But I honestly think no matter how many times we open and close the same blind, we'll always pull it the wrong way on the
yeah. Well, yeah, I actually love that you noticed that, because I loved that little bit as well. It was like he tries to pull it down and it hits him first.
Always. It's like a USB. For some reason, we always put it in 3 times. I don't know why. But how did you find? Like, how did you get through some of the stuff without laughing? I mean, even just the puking the blood all over Matt's face, like how did you get through some of the stuff? Was there a lot of kind of stop and starting, or was it just like?
It was hard because again, it was like kind of my first and Carl's first kind of big gig, and but we were on such a tight, like you think about what we had to do then. So we were already going, okay, with the budget. I remember Conor telling me, he's like, I'm already ambitious with this budget. And now we have to take in all COVID measures. We have to get tested, we have to get sanitized, all this. So like that took so much of the budget. So what was it like, Conor? It was hectic on the set. Like it was literally like setting up scenes, like 3 different scenes at once, and then shooting one and then running. Like it was crazy. But because of that, the pressure not to like just keep laughing. I think in fairness, we did well. There was only one day where you had to reshoot because you were like, we never got that in the end because you two kept laughing. That was the.
It was one day with the write-off. It was about half a day of worthless material because it's just like everyone just got a fit of the giggles that day. And
it's the worst. It's like that feeling when you're in class and like you're not, or when you're in mass or something, and you're just not supposed to laugh.
If you're not supposed to, everything's funnier.
Gets worse and worse. And like for the first few, for the first while, it's kind of funny, and then you're looking around and you see like the boom and everyone is just like,
exactly. and that's like, the feeling. Exactly. They're like, these actors think this is great crack, like we're standing here, stop, you know what I mean? So there was only that one day, and I do remember I was like, I need to stop laughing here, but it was just something about it, and I don't know what, but Carl basically just has to kiss this bunny's head, and for some reason he did it so gentle, and he's like, it's okay, buddy. And for some reason every time he did it, I burst out laughing, but the camera's right in my face. And at one point, like it got to like, I think takes 8 or something. And he kissed it and he just looked at me and I just went, and I only laughed for a second. And then I looked at Conor and I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I can't, like, can we shoot this? And he's like, it's okay, we got it. And then like a week later, I just see it on the schedule to shoot it again. I was like, oh shit. But,
sometimes you're better away, just stepping away. And
But there was so many funny bits, and because we were on such a tight schedule, it actually, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it didn't leave a lot of space to be casually laughing, if you want to put for a better word. Like you did have to go, right, I need to get this because we need to move on. But there was many moments where it was just like, how the fuck are we going to do this?
Yeah, I think it probably as well, because there was, like you say, like even, that scene, like where you used to spray the blood and stuff, there was something like where technically we probably had 2 goes at it.
Yeah.
And it was like, it almost was more stressful than funny. It's like,
the blood thing, I remember actually feeling stressed over, this is going to be gas. Like it was a bit funny at the start, and then when we went to do it, I was like, oh shit, we have to get this. And then we did it twice, I think. Then when we said we got it, like then I just burst out laughing because Carl was covered in it. He was literally covered in blood for like 6 weeks. I'm not joking, or 5 weeks. It was hilarious.
I feel like I'd have to like look over, kind of over the head kind of thing to not see, like look at the other. And Conor, you were saying there that you were able to have a bit of rehearsal with Eoin and Carl beforehand, which is quite rare for films, which is great. So was that kind of because you knew the schedule would be so tight that you wouldn't be able to play as much, like on set, and you kind of wanted to have that all done and really know where you were going?
It was a mixture of 2 things. I think it's like, because we did the promo, like I'm talking 3 years earlier, I was like, every so often we'd just meet up and like, because I'd be writing the script and I'd kind of get the 2 lads together, and we just sort of, improv a couple of little bits and pieces. So, and then what really helped was, because often the problem with rehearsal is you can't really block stuff if you don't know what the location is. But because we were shut down a day before, it meant we had all our locations. So we could block stuff with the locations in mind, if you know what I mean. or like we were going to the house, like in the run up to the thing as well. And we were like trying to shoot as much. Like I have a version almost of the film being acted out by sometimes the two lads, sometimes me, sometimes friends, sometimes like I kind of shot a very rough version just in terms of, because like the blocking and stuff is another thing I realized. It's very hard to, when you're under the pressure of the set, it's very hard to have the time to come up with that stuff. So I kind of wanted, the blocking was sort of important to me, especially for the comedy. And so
I guess there's all the fights as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all that stuff. So
I wonder, Conor, if we didn't have that time to rehearse, like could we have actually pulled it off the way it is now? Probably not, because you literally blocked out, as you said, you blocked out each scene. You almost had each like angle, each movement, like you almost had that already in your head just from the rehearsing that we did. I don't know if we would have been able to do it in that time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, the even as well with the rehearsing, I think for me anyway, and me and Carl, it gave us a chance to actually get to know each other. And like sometimes you go onto a film and you're like, oh, he's playing your best mate and you just met that day. So like we went in as brothers then. By the time we got to the film, like we knew each other so well, especially in that scenario, let's say. So it made it a lot easier for us too. So the rehearsal time, I think me and you have talked about, Conor, was like, it was a bit of a blessing getting pushed in the end, because we just got to know each other, know the story. Conor got to know the block and the story even more. And that was another great thing that you did, Conor, and hats off to you. It was like, we would do those rehearsals and we do a lot of improv. And the more we got to know each other, the better the improv probably got. But then you'd come in to do another rehearsal and like what we did 2 days ago was in the script now. And that gave such a freedom for us, especially for me anyway. And I know Carl felt the same. It was like, you felt kind of part of the story then, part of the process of this story. And like, you'd be way more open to give Conor like an idea and he'd shut it down if he had to, but he'd also go, oh yeah, cool. And you felt comfortable that you could go in really open-minded creatively and go, oh, I'm going to try this and this. And that's where all like some of the best stuff ended up coming from, because you were open to just not being so precious to it, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, if someone can improve my dialogue, you know, I'm always open to it.
Yeah.
And Conor, was there any inspiration from other horrors or comedy horrors throughout? And I could be way off the mark, but I feel like there was like a little mini The Shining moment through the door frame at one point.
Oh yeah, that's a definite moment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes there can be a few kind of little golden eggs laid kind of throughout the film. So I was just wondering, was there any more of those? Yeah,
because there's a low angle before that as well of where he's banging on the door, which is the same shot of Jack Nicholson as well as looking through. So there's probably a lot as well of like just stuff subconsciously absorbed Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite horror movies, and like there's an element of style just in it, you know, that some of the camera work and stuff like that. In terms of very specific ones, God, I know there is. Like, I know there's lots pulled from so many horror movies, but I struggle at the moment to think. They're all mashed in together.
Yeah, and I'm sure with your other films as well, there's just kind of loads of them that kind of is thrown out there.
Yeah. Mostly it's shots, mostly it's camera work, you know.
And Eoin, what did you find the most challenging in this project?
Again, and this is definitely a credit to Conor's writing, is that like it was kind of obvious who the characters were and who Deco was. I kind of just felt like I knew straight away, and without getting too heavy, but like he's an addict, and unfortunately that's obviously a very relatable thing in Ireland and in Dublin, and just growing up here, that's kind of your research essentially. But with Deco, the biggest thing, and I wouldn't even say it was massively difficult, but it was definitely something I was very aware of, was how do I make him likable? Because he's an awful prick, like the stuff he's doing, and the how he's manipulative towards Matt, and his family, and very manipulative to everyone, really, just to get his own way. And again, unfortunately, that can be characteristics of someone who's struggling with addiction, is they need to get their way somehow, so they show these qualities. So if you read the script, you go, on paper, this guy's, you'd hate him. He's horrible, you know. So that was something I was aware of. But then through the writing and then through the rehearsal and through all that, it was more just going, the stupider he is, he seems to be more likable. So it was like, how do we play off that? And then it was already in the script, but then with the improv, then we were able to kind of go, oh God, yeah, you can see his innocence, as in he's being very manipulative, but he almost doesn't even really know he is. Like he's just so innocent and someone who's struggling. So definitely to make him likable was in my head, but Conor had already kind of tackled that, I think, in the writing. And then the improv kind of and the rehearsing got us past that pretty quick. But difficult? No, like I think it was just so much fun. And again, it's credit to Conor being so open that you felt part of it. So I didn't feel too pressured. If I got something wrong, we'd talk it out and we'd try to do it a different way. Again, comedy is something I really enjoy, and I do kind of have a bit of a knack for it, in the sense of that I don't feel like really scared to try things in terms of comedy. So yeah, I didn't feel anything was too hard. It's just a lot of fun, to be honest. Yeah.
And Conor, what about you? I know you've worked on a lot of horrors and comedy horrors that I'm sure you've learned loads on those projects that you bring into your next one. Is there anything in this one that you'll bring onto your next project that you learned?
Yeah, I think for me, like what I was trying to bring to this that I hadn't, like every film you do, you kind of go, what did I miss on that last one that I can work on this one? And like one of the things I really wanted to bring to this one was to have the film have a bit of heart and have a bit of and something, I guess, personal, a personal aspect. And like for me, the core of the film that I was always holding on to was the idea that like a person can have all these manipulative people in their life, and at some point, for a while you can be blaming them, like the vampires to me were kind of selfish. They were just representative of different selfish kind of narcissistic type people. And if you and they're always going to be the same kind of, they're not really going to change. And it's very easy to blame them, but at some point, and the character learns this, is like you realize it's your own fault to some degree, like there's a bit where Anthony's saying to Carl, he's like, you let him in, you did. And it's like in that moment, he's kind of like, oh my God, yeah, it's not them, it's me. It's like, I've got the choice, or you have the power to say no. And that was the heart of the film to me. And it's like, I've never, and I had that revelation in my own life, where I was like, oh my God. And it was important to me to put that in the movie. You're always trying to, and I hadn't really done it before, is like, okay, is there something I've learned from life that I can kind of share? But in a, you always try and hide it behind the fun and everything like that. So that's something I felt gave the film a little bit more heart, I guess adding a personal dimension,
Oh, definitely. I think like the family aspect and the like you can't pick your family, but it doesn't matter. They're always there, and they always kind of will be on top, priority wise and stuff like that. I think was really gave it heart, because like that, it's so easy. I imagine it could be so easy to do films like that, and as you say, like there's no heart in it, you know what I mean? And you're kind of like, well, why are we here? We're just kind of laughing at nothing, so I really loved that aspect of it. But we need to talk about your makeup and special effects team, because there was some really, really impressive stuff in there. So Conor, do you try and work with kind of the same crew, or are you always on the lookout for new talent? Or
well, yeah, a bit of both. Like sometimes you don't have a choice. Like what was so difficult was at Ireland at that time, everyone was like super busy. Like it was almost like I was there making a vampire film and I could not find a model maker for, like, it was crazy. So our sort of workaround, like Madonna, who was doing makeup on the film, like she does makeup, but she also does some special effects, and she's into horror and that kind of thing. So there was a little bit of crossover between makeup and special effects. Like she built the fake heart at the end and stuff like that. So, and some of the prosthetic stuff. And then we had another guy, Rory, who was more like a stop motion animator, you know, so he knew how to, you know, make models, and he would have done the skull and the melting skull face. And there's some stop motion. It was like an Indiana Jones kind of effects when the person in the shed gets hit by light. And so it was quite a small team in terms of doing our special effects. And then we had another team, I guess, who would have been in the industry a while, but they were doing like the blood spray. So they were the kind of, it broke up into that. There was one team just dedicated to blood spraying. I was always excited when I saw them arriving on set, you know. Yeah, so that was it. And a lot of it was kind of like with, I mean, I really like doing practical effects, but also we always tried to do an effect a different way, like each time. Like, for example, there was that scene, remember, Owen, where basically the idea was that when he's burnt, he gets burnt by the sun and he drinks some blood and he's transformed human again. And we had done versions where, you know, it was going to be a CGI transform effect. But then we were like, there's something funnier about, like, I mean, we literally had a double who was covered in blood, so you didn't recognize him. And like, he popped down out of the shot, and then we had to pull him out and Owen slide in, and then Owen popped up.
They literally had, like, they were holding your man by the legs, and then like he just went down out of frame, and then they just dragged him out, and then I slid in and then just sat up. But like that stuff, when we cut that, and then we'd all huddle around the camera, and or the monitor, and we'd watch it. We're like, holy shit, that looks gas. And then we go, right, it worked. So it was lovely. It was great to see little, like, they seem so silly when describing it, and then you'd look at the monitor and go, fucking hell, that's pretty that's pretty good.
Because sometimes it is better to do as much as you can, you know, like real life in that kind of way. Because I think, you know, sometimes you can really only do so much unless you have an insane budget of kind of special effects, you know, in post. You really are better off trying to do as much as you can on the day, in the moment. Yeah,
you said that, Conor. I remember you saying that you're better off trying to do it in the moment first, and then rely on that.
Totally, yeah. Because like you can, like, I mean, there's a bit of CGI in there, but it's like you kind of, if you lean too heavily on it, there's something just about it. Like I never really like CGI blood. Like it's almost like it's too perfect, or it never kind of splatters. There's something always, not that it goes wrong, but unexpected. There's always something unexpected happens when you do it for real, you know. Or like Carl's, you know, when the blood's been sprayed in his face and he's like telling you to, like, fuck off, like, you know, like it's almost for real. Like his performance is being held by the blood splashing in his face. Like,
yeah, it would feel, I imagine it would feel very strange, you know, just pretending, acting, but you know, like if you can do it there and then, like, absolutely go for it. And I think that was the main one where I was just like, that's what I was so impressed by. I was just like, how did Owen not just break out laughing doing that? I just thought it was so funny. And Conor, you've also done some TV directing for No Worries If Not and Darklands and stuff like that. Is it weird? Is it kind of weird and restricting to work on things that are a bit more kind of contained, or is it also quite nice to work on stuff that isn't necessarily your baby all the time?
Yeah, like, I mean, TV is fun. Like what was good about TV, because I worked on Republic of Telly as well for a couple of years, and there was something nice about like shooting so much. Like with a film, you know, it's like with this, like, I don't know, 4 years or something, where there was something nice about in TV, you could get an idea, write the script, and it's on telly next week, you know, so there was, and you could experiment, and it was very quick, like, you know. But there's something special about being able to do your own movie. And I think there's something about the feature film as well that I just really enjoy as a kind of format. So, and I suppose it's like, you're really, like I said, you're making something personal and stuff. So the TV stuff is great, like, you know, and it's been, I I really appreciate that I got to do like a show like that, or like No Worries If Not, and working with those kind of up and coming comedians. But yeah, it's usually for somebody else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's
I guess different pressures maybe, because one can be quite nice when it's not necessarily, you know, the pressure on yourself, but then also it's kind of, you've got maybe a lot of other voices as well that can be kind of pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, like, I suppose in a way, like, I mean, sketches and stuff, they are like little mini movies. So I always think of them as sort of practice, or you always learn something, you know, that you can kind of bring to something else. Like I've done 1 or 2 commercials as well, like in the last year. And like, I find that's almost closer to filmmaking in a way, just because you spend that bit more time. Like what's missed on TV sometimes is you never have enough time to like light something, or, you know, it tends to be very rushed, like, you know, or you have a comedian for half a day and it's like, we've got 5 sketches to shoot and it's all very like, you know, just get it in the can, you know? Whereas I suppose commercials is a bit more time taken to how something looks. I mean, it's one area I enjoy having that bit more time to light it, or to, you know, that visual aspect, you know. But it's not necessary for, like, what did someone say? No one ever won an award for you know, lighting a comedy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
or no, the best quote is like, someone was saying like the DOP for a comedy was taking ages, and the director saying it's not getting any funnier, you know.
Yeah, so you definitely have to look at what can take a back seat on different things, especially when you're with money and timing and all that. So what does the journey look like for Let the Rug One In? Where can people expect to see it, or what's the journey for it?
Well, I guess the most recent one now is it'll be hitting Irish cinemas on the 20th of January. So that's exciting. So that's it's definitely been a long journey to get here.
I was just going to say, yeah, kind of. And when you shot it, sorry, I wanted to ask, when you shot it, was it kind of when restrictions just started lifting, or did you have to wait another good while, or what did that gap look like? And then I'm sure loads of your funding probably went on tests and all that kind of stuff as well. But when did the shooting happen then after?
Yeah, well, like, we were the first production to go out after the lockdown. So, you know, there was that added sort of pressure, you know, that we were making it up. Do you know what I mean?
To show that
like,
it can work.
It was all, it was all being sort of kind of put together, and I guess if we had got shut down, it might have had implications on the next productions that were lining up, and so there was always like this cloud hovering over you. And in a way, that's what delayed as well, because cinemas took a while to recover, and it was like very, like, you know, everyone was a bit cautious, and even when the film was finished, it's like, you know, it definitely took us a longer than we expected to kind of get here.
Well, congratulations. You did it. You did it.
Yeah.
So I always love asking my guests at the end of the interviews if they have a favourite Irish film, as we are Irish Film London, and if they have a film that's impacted their life in any sort of way. So like, that could be an inspirational one, or it could be a comfort film that you always go back to, or it could be a traumatic one that you'll never look at again. I know mine is Hereditary in that sense. But Eoin, what about you? I'll start with you on this.
Slowly panicking in my head here now. No, the first, when you said Irish film, the first thing that comes to my head is probably The Commitments. I kind of grew up watching that, and that was very rewatchable as kids as well. So I have 2 sisters, and they'd be belting out all the tunes, and I'd be on the drums. So like probably The Commitments, and then things like The Snapper and stuff. Do you know what? More recent, probably. Well, it's not recent now. Which is Intermission. That is so underrated for me. Like, because it was shot so kind of. I think that was very low budget as well. That film is a classic. I only watched it recently with a mate of mine, and we were in tears laughing at it. That's probably my Irish films. I'd say The Commitment's probably tops them, because that's just, I watched that a lot as a kid. You know.
Yeah. Oh, it's iconic.
What was the other question?
Just if you have another film that maybe not your favorite one, I guess. Well, you could say your favorite one, but or just one that's like really inspired you, maybe acting wise, or is just always your favorite that you go back to, or
do you know what? I always find that question hard when someone goes, "What's your favorite film ever?" It's hard to like separate the genres.
yeah.
So since we're on comedy, I'll stick to comedy. I grew up a massive fan of Jim Carrey, and Robin Williams, and I do actually remember seeing films like Ace Ventura and do you remember Jumanji with Robin Williams? So like I remember watching those films and then actually going into the garden and like just acting out the whole thing. But I'm not realizing what I was actually doing was acting, but just going outside and just reenacting all of what I saw. So I have a terrible memory, and I have one memory of being in the cinema seeing Ace Ventura. So the fact I remember that must have been something. But I do think I took a lot of my humor and let's say reenactments or storytelling stuff was definitely all coming from like the physical comedy of like Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey, and Robin Williams. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I feel like a bit of the Commitments vibe here going, here are your influences.
Yeah.
And
I know, Terry.
Conor, what about you?
Well, since Owen hoovered up all the Irish films there. No, but I have to say my one is probably In the Name of the Father. Like I was even listening recently to Sinead O'Connor's track, Thief of My Heart. I think Bono wrote it. It's the end track of it. And when I just heard that song, I just remembered that scene at the end with Daniel Day-Lewis when he's like, when they're all
it's unreal.
being freed. Such a powerful moment. And like I remember as well, like when I was back in school, it must have been on telly that night or something, but whatever, the next day, like it was just this mass thing where a load of people started lighting paper and throwing them out the window, and everyone's like, Giuseppe's dead, man. Giuseppe's dead, like, you know. And it was like, but it was whenever I watch that film, I think it's and just that. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis and Pete Postlewaite, like together in those scenes, it's just this mix of like humor and it's so sad, and it's like, but those scenes with the two of those guys are just incredible. That's a great film.
That's a great choice. Really good choice. And what about because in fairness though, Conor, like the horror comedy genre is quite niche. So how did you know that you kind of wanted to get into that side of things?
I think it probably all goes back to Evil Dead 2. Like I remember seeing that movie when I rented two films. I think I was 15 or something, and it was like Evil Dead 2 and Desperado, the Robert Rodriguez movie. And but I think Evil Dead 2, it was just like, it was almost, you know, that feeling where it's like, oh, you're allowed to do that. It just opened up this possibility. And then I saw the Peter Jackson's early stuff, Brain Dead and Bad Taste. And I think all those movies, was just like something went off in my head when I saw them, because it was this mixture of, it wasn't just the gore, it was like the comedy mixed with like camera work. Like, you know, it was like horror allowed the camera, like you couldn't do that in a drama, you know, you couldn't have the camera flying around the place, or it sort of allows you to do this more dramatic style that seemed, you know, I think there's something about the horror comedy that just allows you to, you know, you're using special effects and makeup. It's like mad camera work. You know, it's like all aspects are heightened of filmmaking, you know. So, but I've always thought horror and comedy are very close, really related. Like I didn't notice it till I had to direct something like Darklands, a drama or something, because you realize there's just like comedy has to be funny, or a scare has to work, or it's very obvious that it doesn't. But I don't know, drama, you've got a greater latitude to fail. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, whereas you have to be a bit more precise. So but I think those early films like Like it probably all goes back to Evil Dead in some ways, or some of my early short films. In a weird way, I was laughing. I was going like, I'm making the same film. Like I could pull scenes from my early shorts, and it's just not Anthony Head. It's just my brother running around with a mallet, and somebody else. And it's like my mother was trying to sell her house recently, and there was still blood splattered up on the ceiling, and it was like, I better go and clean that. Like 15 years later, like or whatever.
Well, you absolutely nailed that niche genre in Let the Wrong One In, and congratulations to you both. And I would urge everyone to go and see it when it comes out in cinema. And thank you both so much for coming on to chat to me, and best luck with this and with all of your future projects. And hopefully we will see you very soon. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Niamh. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And that's it for this week's interview. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you to Culture Ireland and the Irish Emigrant Support Programme. Myself and Gerry will be back in a fortnight with a brand new interview. See you then.